In December 1606, 3 small ships carrying 104 men and boys set off from England for the New World. They were sent by the Virginia Company of London, a trading enterprise chartered by King James I. The people in those ships, the Susan Constant, Godspeed, and Discovery, came not so much to plant a new nation, but to find gold, silver, and timber, to establish a commercial base. It took them 4 hard months to reach America. They anchored near a low-lying peninsula in the Chesapeake Bay and started building what became the first permanent English settlement in the New World. They called it Jamestown, in honor of their king. It was May 13th, 1607.
Smith's departure and a harsh winter send a chill through the settlers left to survive at the fort. Relations with the Indians grow icy as well. The English build settlements in defiance of Powhatan's wishes. The chief orders his warriors to kill anyone who sets foot outside of Jamestown's walls.
Must be something here.
Trading with the Indians for supplies is over, and leaving the fort is suicidal. Trapped and running out of food, 500 settlers see no way out.
Now all of us at Jamestown, beginning to feel that sharp prick of hunger, which no man truly describe, but he which has tasted the bitterness thereof, a world of miseries ensued.
When Kelso's team probes a deep pit dating back to that winter, they find grim evidence why the settlers called it the starving time.
This bone's been chopped up. You can see it actually has some cut marks on it. The way it's been splintered, evidence of, the butchering of some sort of animal.
Evidence the settlers are reduced to eating their dogs and horses. The cats are next to go, leaving the rats.
We found things like a black rat, which is the carrier of the Black Plague, and these were being eaten. There's poisonous snakes. We got the bones of snake vertebrae. There's a special barb on the vertebrae of a poisonous snake. That wouldn't be normal cuisine on the menu unless you're real desperate.
The threat of imminent starvation now pushes some over the edge. According to this account by George Percy,
Nothing was spared to maintain life and do these things which seem incredible, as to dig up dead corpses out of graves and eat them.
one deranged settler named Collins is tried by Percy for killing, salting, and eating his wife. For this culinary crime, he is tortured and put to death. And one account says all he left was his wife's head, but you may find that a little hard to swallow. The rainfall nurtures a cash crop that assures Jamestown's survival, one of the most harmful and addictive substances used by man.
Tobacco was for married men only, and therefore tobacco was a guy thing.
The Indians smoke it for religious purposes, but when the English take a toke, they're hooked.
In fact, it'll take the roof off your mouth if you try to smoke it, so you smoke only a little at a time.
Tobacco has fascinated Europeans since Columbus. By the early 1600s, it's such a hot commodity, there are 7,000 stores selling tobacco in London alone.
In fact, King James came out against it and said, this is a pretty wicked habit, and it's not good for you.
The wicked habit sparks such a strong demand that tobacco fever assures the health of the settlement.
Tobacco, for very little investment and very little land, you could make a killing.
In the fertile soil, newcomer John Rolfe perfects a new strain of Virginia tobacco. Bred from a Caribbean seed, it's a smooth-tasting blend tailor-made for the English market. In 1612, Rolfe ships his first batch of tobacco back to England, and Jamestown cashes in big time.
The valuable commodity of tobacco, which every man may plant and with the least part of his labor tend and cure, will return him both clothes and other necessaries.
Tobacco becomes Jamestown's legal currency. 1 pound equals 3 English shillings, and there's nothing tobacco can't buy.
And there were many instances of men running off to live with the Indians because there was female company. And the investors decided that having women here would be a very good idea.
And for 150 pounds of best leaf tobacco, over a year's wages by one estimate, the Virginia Company will deliver your very own wife. Shipping costs included.
Maids young and uncorrupt, to make wives to the inhabitants, and by that means to make the men there more settled and less movable.
In a few years, Jamestown is a thriving settlement. Population over 1,000. A boom town built on a puff of smoke.
And once they had a cash crop that allowed people to get rich fast, English people began pouring across the Atlantic.
Too bad that raising a tobacco crop takes so much manpower. To fill the need, greedy settlers open a Pandora's box. Thousands from Africa will be forced into bondage. All to raise an addictive weed the world would be better off without. But ironically, the very same year that the shadow of slavery falls over North America, the principles are forged, which will ultimately destroy it.
This might be our first Liberty Bell. The base section, the top is missing. It would have been hand-rung, and the bell also may have been used in that moment in 1619 when the first representative legislative assembly met in the church.
July 30th, 1619. A meeting is called in Jamestown's church.
That they have a hand in governing themselves, a general assembly should be held yearly once, for the better establishment of a commonwealth here.
For their subsistence. By them should be thought.
I think it is the birth of American democracy. It's the first time that elected officials, right almost down to the grassroots, were permitted to come in and formulate their own laws.
Jamestown becomes Virginia's capital, but before American independence, its importance declines. After a short, intense life, Jamestown fades from memory, like a line from Shakespeare's Tempest. We are such stuff as dreams are made of, and our little life is rounded with a sleep. For 400 years, Jamestown slept, its settlers forgotten. They were replaced by the Pilgrims at Plymouth Rock in America's national psyche, even though the Pilgrims arrived 13 years later. Why? Maybe Jamestown says too much about what really makes the world go round.
There's no reason to be embarrassed about it. We don't need to look for noble reasons, such as the Pilgrims going to Plymouth. Our beginning settlement at Jamestown was really based on economics, which our country still is today.